I poured my heart and soul into caring for my partner, Sarah's dying mother, Eleanor. I moved in, put my life on hold, thinking we were a team facing this difficult time together. But the comfort Sarah sought wasn't from me. I discovered her shocking affair through messages on her phone, a betrayal that ripped apart everything I thought we had. It was a quiet Tuesday evening when Sarah first told me about her mother's diagnosis. Lung cancer, stage 3. The doctor's words hung heavy in the air, thick with the unspoken implications. Sarah, usually vibrant and full of laughter, looked like a fragile doll, her eyes wide with disbelief and fear. We had been together for 5 years, a comfortable, loving partnership built on shared dreams and unwavering support. Her mother, Eleanor, had always been fond of me, often joking that I was the son she never had. Now, Eleanor was facing the toughest battle of her life, and Sarah was understandably devastated. Without a second thought, I offered to help. Sarah was juggling work, trying to be there for her mother, and dealing with the emotional toll of it all. I worked remotely, which gave me some flexibility. We decided I would move into Eleanor's house temporarily to help with her care. Sarah would come over every evening after work, and we would navigate this difficult period together. The first few weeks were a blur of doctor's appointments, medication schedules, and trying to keep Eleanor comfortable. She was a proud woman, fiercely independent, and it was hard for her to accept help. But gradually, she warmed up to my presence, appreciating the small things. A cup of tea exactly the way she liked it, someone to listen to her stories, a comforting hand to hold during the nights when the pain was unbearable. Sarah was incredible. She was strong for her mother, a pillar of support, but I could see the exhaustion creeping in. The dark circles under her eyes grew deeper, and her usual cheerful demeanor was replaced by a quiet sadness. I did my best to take care of both of them, running errands, preparing meals, and ensuring Eleanor felt loved and cared for. Our life became centered around Eleanor's needs. Date nights were replaced by quiet evenings watching old movies with her. Our conversations revolved around her health, her mood, and her comfort. It wasn't the life we had envisioned, but it felt right. We were a team, facing this challenge together. As the months passed, Eleanor's health deteriorated. The treatments were taking their toll, and she was in and out of the hospital. There were good days, when she would have moments of her old self, sharing stories and cracking jokes, and then there were the bad days, filled with pain and despair. During this time, Sarah found comfort in an old friend from college, Mark. He would often call or text, checking in on her. Sometimes he would even stop by with food or just to chat. I didn't think much of it initially. He seemed like a genuinely nice guy, offering support during a difficult time. Sarah would mention their conversations, how he always knew how to make her laugh even on the worst days. I was focused on Eleanor, on making her remaining time as peaceful as possible. I was often up at night, tending to her needs, and during the day, I was busy with household chores and managing her medication. My connection with Sarah, while still loving, became more about coordinating care and less about us as a couple. We rarely had time for intimacy, for deep conversations about our own feelings. It felt like our relationship was on hold, waiting for this chapter to end. Then came the night Eleanor passed away. It was peaceful, in her sleep, with Sarah and me by her side. The grief that followed was immense. Sarah was inconsolable, and I did my best to hold her together while dealing with my own sense of loss. Eleanor had become like family to me. The days after were a blur of funeral arrangements and dealing with the aftermath. Family and friends came to offer their condolences, and Mark was there too, a constant presence by Sarah's side. He offered practical help, running errands and coordinating with people. I appreciated his support, thinking he was being a good friend. It was a few weeks after the funeral. Sarah had gone back to work, and I was still staying at Eleanor's house, helping to sort through her belongings. One evening, Sarah came home late, unusually quiet. I asked her how her day was, and she just shrugged, avoiding eye contact. She went straight to the bedroom and started getting ready for bed. I felt a strange unease, a nagging feeling that something was off. I decided to check her phone, something I had never done before. But the feeling was persistent, a knot of anxiety in my stomach that wouldn't go away. Her phone was on the nightstand. It was locked. But then I remembered her birthday. I typed it in, and the screen unlocked. My heart hammered in my chest as I opened her messages, and then I saw them. Messages with Mark. Not just friendly messages of support. These were intimate, flirtatious, and recently, overtly sexual. My blood ran cold. There were messages from the past few months interspersed with updates about Eleanor's health, messages arranging secret meetups, expressing longing, and talking about their physical intimacy. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. My breath hitched in my throat, and a wave of nausea washed over me. I scrolled through the messages, each one a stab in the heart. They had been meeting up while I was taking care of her dying mother, in the very house where Eleanor lay sick. They had been exchanging loving messages while I was holding Sarah as she cried over her mother's pain. The betrayal was staggering, a punch to the gut that left me gasping for air. How could she? How could she do this to me, to Eleanor? The woman who had loved her unconditionally. The woman whose final months I had dedicated myself to making comfortable. I felt a surge of anger, hot and blinding. I wanted to scream, to confront her right then and there. But I also felt a deep, crushing sadness. The past 5 years, the love I thought we shared, it all felt like a lie. Sarah came out of the bathroom, dressed in her pajamas. She looked surprised to see me holding her phone. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice tight. I didn't say anything. I just held out the phone, the screen displaying their incriminating messages. Her eyes widened in horror as she saw what I was looking at. The color drained from her face. I can explain," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "Explain what, Sarah?" I asked, my voice shaking with a mixture of anger and pain. "Explain how you were sleeping with someone else while I was taking care of your dying mother? Explain how you could be so disrespectful to her memory, to our relationship." Tears welled up in her eyes. "It just happened," she said, her voice trembling. "I was so stressed, so overwhelmed. Mark was just there for me. It started with talking, and then it just went too far." "Too far?" I repeated, my voice rising. "You were having an affair, Sarah. That's not too far. That's the ultimate betrayal." The argument that followed was a blur of accusations, denials, and tears. She tried to downplay it, saying it was a mistake, a moment of weakness. But the messages told a different story, a story of a sustained affair that had been going on for months. I felt like everything I thought I knew about Sarah had shattered. The woman I loved, the woman I had supported through the most difficult time of her life, had been lying to me, betraying me in the most hurtful way imaginable. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake, replaying the past few months in my head, trying to see the signs I had missed. Had there been subtle changes in her behavior? Had I been so focused on Eleanor that I had become blind to what was happening right under my nose? The next day, the reality of the situation hit me hard. I couldn't stay there, in the house filled with memories of Eleanor, and now tainted by Sarah's betrayal. I packed my bags, my hands trembling with anger and grief. Sarah pleaded with me to stay, to talk, to work things out. She cried, saying she was sorry, that it was a mistake she deeply regretted. But the trust was broken, shattered beyond repair. I couldn't look at her without feeling a deep sense of disgust and hurt. As I walked out of the house, I didn't look back. I felt a profound sense of loss, not just for the relationship that was now over, but for the person I thought Sarah was. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by someone I no longer recognized. The weeks that followed were difficult. The pain of the betrayal was raw and all-consuming. I struggled to sleep, to eat, to focus on work. I kept replaying the events in my head, trying to understand how things had gone so wrong. I talked to friends, family, anyone who would listen. They offered their support, their anger directed at Sarah for her callous behavior. But their words, while comforting, couldn't fill the void in my heart. The hardest part was the realization that my dedication to Eleanor had inadvertently created the space for Sarah's betrayal. While I was focused on caring for her mother, Sarah had turned to someone else for comfort and intimacy. It was a cruel twist of fate, a bitter irony that haunted me. Eventually, I moved out of the city, needing a change of scenery, a fresh start. I threw myself into work, started exercising again, and tried to rebuild my life piece by piece. The pain of the betrayal slowly started to subside, replaced by a quiet sadness and a lingering sense of disbelief. Looking back, I still struggle to understand Sarah's actions. Was it the stress? The grief? A fundamental flaw in our relationship that I had been too blind to see? Maybe it was a combination of all those things. What I do know is that her betrayal taught me a harsh lesson about trust and the fragility of relationships. It also made me realize the depth of my own capacity for love and commitment, even in the face of immense difficulty. I had put my life on hold to care for someone I loved, and I wouldn't trade that experience, despite the painful aftermath. Eleanor's memory remains a source of comfort to me. I know I made her final months as comfortable and peaceful as possible, and that gives me a sense of closure. As for Sarah, I eventually forgave her, not for her sake, but for my own. Holding on to anger and resentment would only weigh me down. Life goes on, as they say. I have started dating again, cautiously optimistic about the future. The experience with Sarah has made me more aware of the red flags, more attuned to the subtle signs of emotional unavailability or dishonesty. I know that eventually, I will find someone who appreciates my loyalty and commitment, someone who will cherish the love I have to offer. And when I do, I will be sure to communicate my needs and boundaries clearly, ensuring that the mistakes of the past are not repeated. This experience was a painful chapter in my life, but it doesn't define me. I am still the same person I was before, perhaps a little wiser, a little more guarded,